We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Just a question of taste with you, well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are kept creeping, and you go and buy our flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Just shut your mouth.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the professionals on a September Sunday, and Steve C, I think, captures the way me and the lads are feeling. I'm kind of looking forward to this, but at the same time dreading it. Steve, yes, you couldn't be further from the couldn't be clearer to the truth, nearer to the truth. But yes, welcome along. An hour and a half of crack banter and answering your questions as best we can without leading you up the garden path, and keeping you updated, of course, on the Man City Arsenal game, which is currently 1-1. Rodri's gone off injured. Didn't look as serious as first as it could have done, but Haaland scored for Man City. Who else? And then a sublime equaliser for Arsenal makes it 1-1 with 30 minutes played. So interesting to see how that pans out. Anyway, let's get it over and done with, Stu. Newcastle United travelled to Craven Cottage, a happy hunting ground in recent weeks, recent games, sorry. And this year, we were looking for our third win down there after the FA Cup and league success. But Newcastle got a lesson that I think most of us were expecting at some point with the way that we've been playing. And we got dealt it yesterday with a 3-1 defeat. Newcastle's goal scorer, the man of the moment, Harvey Barnes, but really just come back down to earth with a bump. I mean, you know, tongue in cheek, I was saying we could have gone top yesterday, and, you know, against Man City, 3 points against them would have extended the gap. Of course, you know, I'm a realist. I've been a Newcastle fan for a long time and knew that wasn't, you know, wasn't likely to happen. But yeah, we started with that 11. I just thought I'd stick that in just so that we can refresh our memory, although it's only 24 hours ago. There was changes yesterday. Changes which, I've got to be honest, we all saw on social media, we've discussed on here, people asking for, lots of people critical of Longstaff. I think we've been probably Longstaff's biggest supporters in recent times when everyone else would rather he wasn't at the club. We've backed him to the hilt and understood why he's picked him. However, that was your starting lineup. We had Pope, Trippier, Shaw, Joelinton, Gordon, Barnes, Isak, Kelly, Willock, Byrne, and Captain Bruno on the bench. Dubravka was the keeper. We had Tonali, Kraft, Asula, Hall, Livramento, Murphy, Almiron, and Longstaff. So he changed it, and that was the effect. We got beat 3-1, mate. Was it down to the changes, or was it down to something else, Stu?
There's a mixture of many things, Steve. It's very hard to defend indefensible. For me, it was a non-performance, and it was one that's probably been coming if you look at the performances in other games this season. And hopefully it has a positive impact. You know, you can't bounce back till you hit bottom. But that performance yesterday, it was very un-Eddie Howe like, and that's I think the most frustrating part. Getting beat, we're going to get beat. You know, at different times through the season, we're not going to go a whole season unbeaten. So there will be defeats. I think it's the manner of the defeat. for me, there was changes made that. Now, bearing in mind, we only see the team play in the games. We don't see them on the training ground every day like the manager does. But I thought starting Willock, we can all be wise after the event, but I thought starting Willock just coming back from injury was a risk that was unnecessary. And I think we've got, if we're looking at our midfield, I think for me, it's quite clear. It should be Tonali starts +2. He's the only one that's really crashed the nettle at any time and said, right, this is what I'm about, and I'm here to make a difference. There's too many players off where they should be. For me, we had players that started yesterday that put a great audition to show that they're actually impact players. If you look at that first half, I mean, it's hard. I mean, I don't want to single individuals out because I don't think anyone could really say they played well in the first half at all. But there's the ones that got brought into the team. For me, did they make a positive impact? I don't think they did. The best part of the first half for me was realising the size of Anderson's forehead. It was actually a 5-head. It was that big. So that was news to me. But what was really frustrating, and it's not just happened yesterday, it's happened maybe for the last 12 months, or at least the last 10 months anyway, is when the opposition get the ball, it's like it becomes like a force shield, and our players can't go near it. They run away, they back off, they allow them to, the phrase that's used up quite common now is transition. They allow them to gain 50, 60, 70 yards up the pitch from what is our attack into their attack. And it's not until they get near the box we try and tackle them. And for me, whether it's a lack of fitness, whether you can point your fingers at too many things, but I'll ask a question, right? What have Isaac, Anthony Gordon, Bruno, Joe Linton, Miggy, Tonali, Murphy, Willock and Longstaff combined got in common? And the answer is simple. They've all scored the same amount of Premier League goals this season as Chris Wood. And that is shameful. Now, I'm not advocating we should have Chris Wood back by any stretch of the imagination, although I was a big supporter of his and the role he did. But there's a huge lack of accountability. There's people pointing the fingers like, you mark him. No one's rolling the sleeves up and taking responsibility. The defence as a unit yesterday was probably the worst I've seen it in a long time. There was no cohesion. However, if we're trying to, and I'm really grasping at straws here, we're on 10 points from 5 games. And if we keep that going, that'll end us up on 76 points, which will very comfortably get us Champions League qualification next season. But it doesn't feel like that at the minute. And I'm trying not to overreact, but it was a dismal, abysmal performance yesterday. Okay,
Mitch, give us your views on yesterday's game. We can't sugarcoat it tonight, and quite rightly so. People are having a go in the chat about lots of things, which we'll come to. But what was your view?
It's a performance that's left me with far more questions than answers, and I don't like that. I really don't like that. On Friday in Amigos, we always try to keep it positive and try and go forward. But the big elephant in the room on Friday night that we didn't go near, while we were saying, okay, look, we haven't played too well for most of the games this season, big periods of the games, we're going to click and we're going to get it right and somebody's going to get a hiding if it does. The question we didn't ask or go anywhere near, and I think with good reason, otherwise it would be being called bloody doom-mongers and all sorts. What if it doesn't go so right and we can't find a way out of it? And that's what happened yesterday. From conceding the goal so quickly after Joe Linton's goal being the goal that he had ruled out for offside. And then the second goal was frankly awful. And poor keeping from Pope. He looked like he picked up the Dubravka's Poppadom wrists on that one. I don't know what he was thinking. And then when we did manage to get ourselves back in it, we had a 20-minute spell maybe after kick-off when we got the equaliser early doors. But then all of a sudden, we petered out again, and the people who wanted Longstaff out the team got their wish, but what did they get yesterday? And God forbid if Longstaff had played the ball that Bruno did.
Yeah.
I think we can sit down and look at it, but my biggest question, Eddie, is what's your best 11? And I don't think he can answer that. And I think that shows. He looks like he's grasping at straws a little bit. I've seen a stat that we've faced 100 shots already this season in the Premier League. That's crazy. That's crazy. And what you've hinted is, I think the problem's midfield. He doesn't know what his best three are, and therefore they don't know what their roles are, and the roles aren't clearly defined, and therefore they're not linking up as well with Isaac in attack, and at times Isaac looked very isolated yesterday. And then also, they're not protecting the back four. They're leaving the back four with too many one-on-ones, and then the back four are getting pelters because they're not being protected. Stu mentioned the word transition. How can they end up, moving the ball 70 yards when we've lost possession in attack? Well, that's because the midfield don't know what their rules are, and they're all over the place, if you ask me, Stu. And that's part of the problem. It seems to be, by his own admission, he feels like he picked the wrong 11 yesterday. And I think we're seeing a combination of a lot of different things. I think we're seeing players who are tired physically and mentally from basically, in some cases, 2.5 seasons without a break at all. I think we're seeing players who don't necessarily know what their roles are. I think when he brought Kelly in, I think he thought he was bringing in a bit more defensive stability, and I think Hall looked infinitely better when he came on at the half time. So I know everybody's talking about Gordon. You know what I believe did the damage to Gordon? Was going away with England and the way he was treated by Southgate. I've had it on a reasonably good authority. For the last week of the tournament, he spent every day on the phone to Eddie Howe, and he wanted to come home. He felt that unwanted and that unused. And I think then, when he did come back, there was stuff going around that, potentially being offered to Liverpool for PSR. Is it any wonder his mind's all over the place? Because he does look not quite there at the minute. Isaac yesterday was definitely carrying a foot injury. He pulled out the 2 tackles. He didn't want to put his foot in. You could see it twice. He pulled his foot away when he could have made a challenge. And again, that doesn't protect the midfield. That then reflects on the back four. So again, I was bumbling along with an injured forward again, because Wapurma injured forward isn't anywhere near the bench still. I've heard people yesterday post-match, when I was watching it with the Dubai Mags, somebody banging on about, this is all Mitchell's fault. He's been there like 5 minutes. I don't think it's all Mitchell's fault. Somebody having a go at Bunce, saying he's overtraining them and he's knackered this and he's knackered that, but he's taking away the press. I don't think Bunce has that much influence over the style of play that Eddie Howe would allow him to change things that drastically. And again, he's only been in the club 5 minutes. But there's so much turmoil, and there's been so much turmoil, and there's so much rumour, half-truth and stuff being binged around. And again, common theme over the last 8-9 months, it's another thing that Newcastle United have done where they've lost control of the narrative, because they haven't intercepted some of it by making appropriate statements from appropriate people at appropriate time. And therefore, here we all are, thrashing around, turning the guns inward again, because we're bloody good at that. And I think, I think we're seeing a combination of a lot of different things. But I think the biggest difficulty for me is I genuinely don't think Eddie knows what his best 11 is at the minute, and he's scrambling to find that.
Gary says it's really worrying that Eddie doesn't know his best team, and they've all been with him at least 18 months, and the fact he's not changed tactically to make things work. Chipper says we had a full week to prepare for that game, and we were not prepared. Now that worries me. Lots of comments about Bruno and lots of questions coming in. Did get one sent to us on X. Where is it? Here it is. That's from Julie. Do we think Eddie's had his head turned by England? Julie felt his body language isn't right, or do you think it goes deeper than that? So, I mean, again, it's our opinion. Do you think that's part of it as well? Could it be playing a part? You know, the England question still hasn't gone away.
It's how you say this without creating speculation and stuff like that. Of course, he would have had his head turned by England, but if you look at his statements regarding Ashworth, claiming loyalty and stuff like that, then it would be very remiss of him to do the same. Now, I'm informed he's actually spoken with England, and if you want to make if you want to make it a bigger thing, is it possible that they wanted Eddie to leave and they seen England as the golden goose where they could get paid for him leaving as well? But the way the results have been, it's like, hang on, we need to keep him. And for me, it would be criminal if he was allowed to leave. But I don't think that for Eddie Howe, if he's anything, he's an ultimate and professional. And I don't think he would allow that to change him. And also, his results will dictate whether he gets looked at from afar. And he's been near perfect. And I don't think it's the system. It's a system that's used by other teams. It's the players in it. And maybe it's his loyalty or his lack of willingness to shall we say, rest players, rotate players, drop players, because he's too friendly with them or he has too much respect. But I think it's deeper. If you look at Bruno, he's in clear need of a rest. Gordon, I think, as Mitch just said there, is quite obvious he's got mental fatigue. And I think this is what Eddie Howe was referring to in his press conference. He says you've got to play people through it to get them back to the level that they were at. And a lot of it is confidence. But also throwing into the mix, you could think the players finished the season well last year. They all know they had the injuries. They all know the start of the season, the Champions League, and then they finished the season actually in Australia. But they finished the season on a good run that should have really got them back into Europe. And I think they were expecting a big transfer window where the players would be added, quality players would be added, if you call it freshen up, or to take us to that next step. And for whatever reason, that hasn't happened. So there could be an apathy or a bit of disillusionment, not just with the players, but the management as well. Thinking, you know what? Is Eddie Howe expected to pull flowers out his backside every single game? You know, he's blatantly overachieved with what he's had, and he's been asked to do it again and again and again. Whereas had we had two quality additions to that squad, the main would have been different. Now, the reason, if you remember, Steve, after last week's game, I asked, should we go live after the Man City Arsenal game? And he went, no, let's go live. Let's go head against it. And all three of us expected to be sitting here now, being top of the league until that game finished. And it hasn't worked. So that's how fine a line it is. Now, you've got ifs, buts, and maybes. But had Shaw had the awareness to square the ball to Isak, he would have rolled the ball in the empty net. We were back then at 2-2, and there was only going to be one winner. But again, that would have papered over the cracks. But we would have been top of the league. And again, after another performance that isn't worthy of a team anywhere near the top of the league, and then the narrative would then be, we're still waiting for our better players to click. You know, if you look at the blue chip players, the Isaks, the Gordons, the Brunos, there hasn't been one good game between the three of them, and we've played 5 games now. So out of 15 games in total combined between those three, not one of them could say, I played really well that game. And when we don't have a team of elite players, we're relying on a few. These are the ones, and I don't want to say it's their fault that we're where they are, but these are the ones that are difference makers. These are the ones that can carry us that extra you know, they give us that extra percentages, give us that difference. And as Mitch mentioned there, Isaac, for the last, I think, all season, the poor fella's hardly had a kick. You know, and we know that he's been courted by some of the best teams in Europe. And when he's not getting supply, how is he meant to score? You know, you could be the best finisher in the league. Look at Haaland, the way he's scoring. But if no one passes to him, he's not going to score. You know, and there seems to be something. Well, it doesn't seem to be. It's quite clear there's something not right. But I do back Eddie Howe to fix it. But he has to make big decisions. You know, anyone can be a manager when things are going well. It's when things aren't going well. It's how you turn things around. And yeah, I know I've used the analogy before, like golf. It could just be one thing that's missing. But it could be you haven't pointed your feet the right way, or your knees, or your shoulders aren't straight, or you know, when you're taking a shot, that one thing makes the difference to the whole shot. It could just be one thing in that team that can change it, and he's going to have to tinker with it. Now, we've got, in all intents and purposes, every press conference, every game we play is a tough game, and I know that's out of respect to the opposition, and he doesn't want his statement pinned on their dressing room wall, saying we're going to roll over them. But we've got anything now. All our games now going forward to Christmas are league games, apart from the League Cup on Tuesday night. That's as closest to a gimme as we'll get. And this is where he needs to freshen up, rest players that are in dire need of rest, and bring people in with a bit of energy, a bit of willingness to go the extra mile, to do the odds. And then if we want to go around the team, should Hall have started? Did Kelly do that much wrong to be substituted? Should Tino have started? You know, and it's all wise after the event. But I think the major concern yesterday was just the acceptance that things weren't going well. And even in the first half, there was nothing. You can't blame Eddie Howe for players, professional players, a lot of them over £100,000 a week, can't pass the ball 10, 20 yards to someone in the same colour shirt as them. And the decision making is off. And that's the most worrying thing, which then leads into the confidence. And if you're not playing with confidence, you'll never be able to play at your best. So the phrase that's been used a lot, especially on the Amigos, is some team's going to get a good slacking. It was us yesterday. But we are capable of good. We're actually capable of beating Man City. I know that people might laugh at that or disagree with that, but we've seen in the past how we can take the game to them. And could it be the worst game or the best game we've got coming up next in the league? Is where no one's expecting anything of us. And these big game players, as they all think they are, they've got an ideal opportunity to do it. Maybe because we won at Wolves, we drew at Bournemouth, we won 2 home games. Maybe there was a bit of taking an eye off the ball yesterday, and we went in this game thinking, now we're going to win this. But I'm sorry, you've got to earn the right to win it. And if someone's not rolling the sleeves up, putting the effort in, that's where the teammates have to start getting on their backs, pull your own weight. And this is where the manager has to earn his corn and say, I'm sorry, I don't care how good you are. You're not doing what's expected of you in this team. You're out. You'll get your chance again. But today, I need to make changes for the better. And I think sometimes the changes become too predictable for his changing. Murphy wouldn't have started for anyone, but he didn't do his cause any harm yesterday, did he, when he came on? At least he was wanting to have a go. He was a willing runner. And it still gets back to Bonds and his ice cool finishing. And then it all goes back to me for that Shaw. And I'm not blaming Shaw for the reason we got beat. There was 13, 14 other players on the team for the reason we got beat. But that one incident there, for us, that was the game finished. And it was some people were just wanting to see it through, like they look disinterested, and that part is unacceptable and unforgivable. You pull on that shirt, you see the commitment from the fans, you praise them every week. At least give it a go. And too many dropped their heads yesterday.
The Arsenal Man City game really is starting to heat up. Arsenal have gone ahead 2-1 with Gabriel proving that dreams do come true. But Trossard has Trossard's got his second yellow, and he's now got his marching orders. and you can guess who's going mental on the sidelines.
Oh,
Because they're down to 10 men.
losing shit, like, isn't he?
He's not happy. He's not happy.
Mate, I tell you what, Stu, we could have Man City next week if they deliver the ball in the box. Dan Burn could make hay, given the ease of the score from the corner, the second goal.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I'm too focused on delivering a professional show. I'm not distracted.
Very good, lad. Very good.
Even though
Yeah,
I've just watched the horse race.
The question was about Eddie Howe. I mean, Stu, Stu says he's heard from a rival source that potentially Eddie's chatted. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if he has, but I think it's a combination of things. Really, I think it's a combination of everything. We've already discussed what's been going on behind the scenes at Newcastle, but certainly I would say, and I would agree with a lot of the people in the chat, that some of the players looked affected by something. Something's not right. I think your view on the midfield's certainly right. Somebody's mentioned in the chat as well, I'm sure you saw it, about Bruno and Tonali. Can they play together? That was last year's question, which was then removed because of the suspension to Tonali. But it's so many things. But if it is Eddie and the England job, and and we do lose him, then I would say then surely now is the time for him to go. But I would prefer for him to turn it down, to stay at Newcastle and just to get on with the job. But the only people that know what is going on are the people sitting in the director's box yesterday, and those people sitting in the dressing room at the start of the game, at half time and at full time. And they need to realize that this isn't good enough, and they need to get things sorted out sooner rather than later. And Eddie is gonna say, like he said at the end of the game yesterday, when he was interviewed, we've got a week to put it right. Well, you haven't really. You've got a week to put it right for Man City. You've got to get it right by Tuesday. You know what I mean? You've got a couple of days to sort out what's going on in the dressing room. Otherwise, we could get dumped out the Carabao Cup. And what a week that could be. We've talked about Newcastle winning yesterday, being top of the league, getting through against Wimbledon, and then potentially going top. Extending the gap against Man City. Could be a bad week. We could get knocked out of the cup and get another shellacking off Man City. So that's football. A lot can change in the next 5 or 6 days, Mitch.
Absolutely, and that's exactly why. Again, and like I said just before, that was the elephant in the room on Friday night when we're talking about all this on Amigos. What if it goes to shit? What if it goes wrong? What if it doesn't work? I just feel a disconnect, and the disconnect's not just pouring onto the pitch; it's pouring into the fan base in many different ways. Like I say, some of the little tetchiness, even amongst the Dubai Mags yesterday, was palpable. People upset and angry, but the range. If we were to produce a tick box list of what is it you're upset about, there would have been about 20 different bloody answers in the room, and I think that's what it feels like. We feel totally disconnected and disjointed, I think, is the way it looks and the way it feels, and we're all picking up on it. We're struggling to find the reason why. Has Eddie had his head turned? Does he have his mind elsewhere? Is he covering his bases just in case? What I would say to those involved with the process and those who make decisions, if don't turn into Freddie Shepherd and come out and tell her that you're not going to be the man that shoots Bambi. And then instead of shooting Bambi and doing it humanely, you bludgeoned him with a baseball bat and let him bleed out for 2 weeks before you then pulled the trigger. Because that's what he did with Robson. If you've got it in your mind that now's the time to make a change, make it. For everybody's sake, make it.
Do you know what, Mitch? So the whole thing is, right, you've got to be accountable for your own success and you're accountable for your own failure. The phrase I use often is, if you take the claps, you've got to take the slaps. And This is a slap Kenny Everett style hand. It really is. And it's been
with brotherly love hands.
Yeah, it needs. Hopefully, it will galvanise them. But I don't buy into this. What's happening off the field is affected on the field. That's just excuse making, and it's giving people reasons to. Yeah, that's it. Look at Man City. They could get relegated. they could, you know what I mean? I know they've got a better squad than us, but they could get relegated. They're still playing to the top of their ability. But I know they've got a lot more choices. But is this not the first league game? Is Foden playing? He hadn't started the first 3 or 4 games. So they've got that luxury of wrestling players like that. We've had to throw them straight back in because we don't have the depth. And this is where it goes back to the lack of activity or the lack of success in the window, where we're not allowed, or we haven't been privileged of that luxury to say, right, Anthony, we're going to give you a rest for a couple of weeks. We're going to get you fully fit. We're going to get your head right. You are loved. You are our main player. You were player of the season last season, and do not worry. You're going to come back and you're going to start ripping defences apart again like you did last season. He hasn't become a bad player overnight. Bruno, probably, I think he played more games than Rodri, who threatened to strike last season. And they are human. Eventually, you know, as much as his mind might be willing, his body isn't. And if he's not performing, when you see someone who's underperforming, and I know his level is higher, Bruno's level is higher, so the drop off is more alarming than someone of lesser ability. But when someone, I think there's been 2 or 3 players that no matter how they perform, they know their place is safe, and that has to change. You know, because if not, if you're a squad player thinking it doesn't matter how well I play, I'm not going to get a game anyway. You know, and it's fixing it all together. And I hope they're in tomorrow and they have their own inquest and they actually have an open floor and let people get everything off the chest, no matter how nasty it gets, no matter how many fingers get pointed, get it all out, and at least you know what's there to be fixed. Because what you don't want is people just nodding, no, it's okay, don't worry about it. They need to worry about it, because this is not Eddie Howe's Newcastle United that we've watched since he took us over. The team that stayed up played with more fight and more desire than what we've seen this season. And that shouldn't be the case, because we've got better players. And the one thing I say every game when we talk about results, how many Fulham players would get in our starting 11 on ability? None of them yesterday would get in our starting 11. If you go man for man, not one of them. Yet they looked like a team. They looked like they knew what they were doing. They were willing to make the runs. They were willing to fight for each other. They were willing to track back, and they were willing to put the foot in legally, not just a dirty little dangle of the leg out, hoping to trip someone up or letting someone pass and point the finger. You chase him and take him out of his position and make the defence bad. Because that defensive unit yesterday, as I said earlier, that was the worst I've seen them play under Eddie Howe. And we've been stuffed a few times, but yesterday we were lucky to only concede 3. Yet we still could have won the game.
There's so many things you can pick through from that performance, from what was Shaw doing for the first goal, allowing them time and space to turn in the box like that. You should have been all over him like monkeypox. You know, you can't allow a Premier League striker that amount of time to turn and shoot. It's a good finish, but he seemed like he had all the time in the world. The second goal, the stroll through our midfield into the back 4, and then a weak shot is weakly palmed into the back of the net by the bloody goalkeeper. And then there was more and more things like that you could pick out individually. And even then, we created enough of a chances in that 20-minute patch in the start of the second half to drag ourselves back into it. And we could have been sitting here talking about either salvaging a point or even winning the bloody thing, having played like crap like we had all season. It's the fine margins between success and failure. It's purely a results-based business. But I think really, for me, you're right when you say it. You know, there's not. I wouldn't have swapped a single one of their team out for any one of ours. I know Steve said it was yesterday that he liked the left fullback, the American lad, but still between him and Kelly, I would still roll with Kelly. And it's really frustrating to know that we've got the quality. We know what they can do. We've seen what they can do. But why they're not doing it consistently in each game? We've probably only played well for a combined total of 70 minutes this season. You know, and if we do that in the next 5 games, we'll probably have our arses handed away in a couple of them, I would have thought. So you're right about this week being a big week. And who would have thought we're sitting talking about this game at Wimbledon as being quote-unquote must win? But that's what it feels like. It's absolutely what it feels like.
Very true. Lots of people talking about the formation. John Askew says, we need to be more flexible on the formation. 4-3-3 is a dog's breakfast at the moment. Our game is disjointed and it's unbalanced. Do you lads agree? And I mean, I guess carrying on from that, John Mitchison, he says, serious questions, no need to be asked about team selection, tactics and formations. Bruno being captain, not a captain. In my opinion, Gordon's body language to me is that he wants out. In my opinion, he was as bad as others. John Mitchinson also says, we now have lost our identity, our high press. What's happened to that? Eddie needs to sort this out soon. It's not a happy club behind closed doors. I think it needs sorted or PIF will pull the trigger. So yeah, the formation is getting a bit of a hammering in the chat today, Stu. I mean, formations, I'm not a coach, I'm not qualified, managed at Sunday League level, played Sunday League level, hardly makes me qualified to question Eddie Howe. But as a supporter, you look at things sometimes and you wonder why things don't get changed. You know, Asula did manage to get on the pitch yesterday. He did try a couple of different formations with Gordon behind Isaac at one point, and then Asula on. But yeah, formations still seem to be the same. And again, people questioning square pegs and round holes, but we always point to the fact that Eddie sees these players day in, day out, whereas we only see them once a week, twice a week if there's 2 games. So, I mean, is the formation part of the issue as well?
No, I don't think it is. If you look back through Eddie Howe's time at Bournemouth, majority of the time he played 4-4-2 because that was the formation that suited the players best. This 4-3-3 has worked for the majority of his tenure here at Newcastle, but it works when you have the players doing it. If you're doing 4-3-3, you need to do the high press, and if one goes, they all have to go. Not 1 or 2 go and another one point the finger saying, oh, you get him, I can't be bothered to run that 10-15 yards, because that's when the gaps get found, that's where the space gets exposed, and that's when we get from their defence to their attack very, very quickly, because you have someone stuck between 2. And if you go man for man, it forces a mistake. So it's the lack of energy. The 4-3-3 does work. We know Liverpool do it very well. And Man City play a variation of it as well. But you need to have the players buying into it and willing to do it. But there is a shout for away from home a 4-2-3-1. You know, we have to be flexible with it, and it seemed like you did change things around yesterday, but that could have been like the parade after the Lord's Bell show, couldn't it? It's like the horse had already bolted, but closing the door here. You know, we went there. If we're looking at yesterday, if it was just a one bad game yesterday, it wasn't. It's been an accumulation of all season where there have been a bit off, and we've got away with it. We've made wins, but regarding PIF, what I know, and I know you both know, that they pay people to watch shows like this and other podcasts. They pay people to go on to Twitter and see what the feedback is from the fans. And if they're doing that, the general consensus is, if you want to keep it simple, Eddie Howe good, Darren Eales bad. You know, and they're not wanting the bad publicity. They haven't been afforded the opportunity to invest as much as they'd like to. That's not Eddie Howe's fault. That's not PIF's fault. But whoever made the decisions in the transfer window, I know they're all pointing fingers at each other. It wasn't me, it was him. I was just watching, I was doing that. Someone needs to put their hands up and say, it should have been better. At least be honest. Instead of saying, well, it wasn't me, it was them, or that was already in place, so I'm not involved in it anymore. Someone needs to say, look, someone had to be in control. Someone has to say, I was in control of it and I got it wrong. You know, we're all human. I got it wrong. But the knock-on effect that's created has created this storm of that he's not speaking to him, he's not speaking to him. It makes everyone look bad behind the scenes. And that's not something that will sit well with the PIF. So if you want, and not speculation, if you want a suggestion, I can see them bringing Amanda back in. I genuinely can see them bringing Amanda back in. And then she's not going to be managing the team. So whose role would she be taking? Or would she be told to work alongside people? I think that is a high possibility of happening within the next 2 or 3 weeks. That's my opinion, and I think we
Really?
can then.
That
Yeah,
quickly?
that's what I think. I genuinely think that, and I've heard things similar to that. The PIF haven't finished with her; they've got a role for her, and I reckon that would she come back to Newcastle? Absolutely, she would. But then she's in a position of strength, because don't tell me that her leaving was seamless. That was the PIF back in what the information they were given and made a decision. But also she had off the field stuff herself to resolve. Now, if that's all fixed, I'm just speculating here. I'm not saying I've been told this is happening for certain. This is just purely my opinion. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if Amanda Staveley's back in some capacity at Newcastle United in the not too distant future.
What's your thoughts on that, Mitch? It's a bit, you know, it would be a bit of a shock, I would say.
As you may imagine, this is a conversation Stu and I have had. And I'm actually surprised you brought it up on here, but there you go. Well done, mate. I can see where he's coming from. As ever, he speaks sense. Never comes from a position of sensationalism or drama. It's always with thoughtful and considered insight and knowing how the Middle East business mind works, because it is different. There needs to be something happen to stabilise things. And what seems to have happened since they moved out of the club is it's become exceptionally unstable all over the place. So, you know, is that coincidence? Don't know. But one thing for sure, you'd be putting somebody in place who has already demonstrated exceptional commitment and desire for everything to do well. But again, anybody coming into the mix here, I say it yet again, these are professional people at the top of that game, and they really, really, really need to be able to show that they can work everything out on and off the pitch for the betterment of the club and the betterment of everybody. Right now, again, we've lost the narrative. We've lost control of the narrative totally. And that's why there's so much uncertainty and a degree of angst starting to creep in, and a degree of internal strife within the fan base. So, I think, you know, let's see what the next few weeks brings for a number of different reasons.
See, Mitch, is what we've said from the very start of this current ownership, shall we say, that it's been a one-way ride. It's just been a win. Everything was going well, and it was quite clearly the meteoric rise was never going to continue because the restrictions that were put in place. It was always going to plateau. But it seems to me that it's not plateauing now. It's actually taking a dip for the worse, whether that's on the field, off the field, or a combination of all. And what we're in desperate of as a fan base is some actual good news. Now, whether that be a sponsorship, whether that be a new ground, whether that be Amanda coming back, whether that be Eddie Howe saying, I'm here and I'm here for good, whatever. You know, but the overreaction after every game this season has been ridiculous. So I knew it was going to happen yesterday, but yesterday it was deserved. You know, I mean, maybe it's not to the extent some people took it to, but you can't put in performances like that and not expect to be criticised. You know, it's anyone who goes to work, if you go to work and just shrug your shoulders and say, I can't be bothered, eventually, if not instantly, you get pulled up on it if you're reporting to somebody. You know, so we'll have to look at thinking how can we fix this? There needs to be a unity within the club, and for me, Eddie Howe is the one that can bring together. He's the one that can do it, and whether he's been allowed to do it or whether he feels that they're backing him to do it is a different matter altogether. But again, I go back to how I believe the PAF look at things and think, there's no reason that we should be in this position with the negative press that the club's receiving, with the disillusionment amongst the fan base. We shouldn't be like this 3 years into their ownership. You know, we should be happy. Yes, should we be happy? We'll never get relegated as long as they own us. We'll never get relegated. But this season we've dropped the ball massively. There was a huge opportunity for us to bounce ourselves back into the Champions League and then stabilise ourselves at the top end of the table. And it looks like, well, for whatever reason, it hasn't happened. And now, whether we like it or not, that's going to come. That we've got what we've got till January, and this is what they need to get themselves together and think, right, where do you go? Because, and I'll say it again, Eddie Howe is the most important person employed by the club, not owning the club, employed by the club. Because I tell you what, if he does go, what do you think is going to happen to that team? What do you think is going to happen to that team spirit? You might as well just rip up the checkbook, and start again.
It's already happening. It's already happening, though, Stu. Where's the team spirit now? Where was the team spirit yesterday? Where was it at Wolves? I was at Wolves. The game, the result overshadowed the game. There's no team spirit at the minute.
But do you know what? I think there is, otherwise they wouldn't have got the results. Yesterday, the performance it was abysmal, but they've got a togetherness to I hate using this phrase, it remains an Pardew, to get over the line. But the team yesterday, they just give up, and that's something that we're not used to. And if it is a one-off, then great. Performances, we know, the cream will always rise to the top, etc. And form's temporary, class is permanent. And we do have some class players, and it's maybe just sitting them down and letting them vent their spleen. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me why. Look at you last year. Look at you now. For Isaac, it's simple. No one's passing to us. I'm not getting any support. I'm not getting the ball. So then you have to start working your way back. But there's one person, one player that we've never mentioned for a long time, and that's Botman. Look at the difference he makes to that team. And if you look at when he got injured, it just coincides with the bad run the team's had overall over the last, 10, 11 months. And yes, there's been high points in it. But I think he gives that calmness, that reassurance, that composure with him next to Shaw, where the defenders on either side of them know that they can make an error, and it gives them a bit more freedom to express themselves. The midfield know if they do slip up, they've got two top quality centre halves to mop up after them. And maybe this is why they were wanting Gay to long-term partner Botman. Obviously not straight away because Botman's still injured, but with them two there playing together, they're both ball-playing centre halves. And as is Shaw, to be fair, better than the pair of them, to be honest. But this is where I think Eddie Howe was looking to build from the back. But imagine you're getting promises at work, and then you get, we're going to do this, even if it's just like every week we'll take you out for a drink on a Friday, and you're getting told this, and then they don't do it. And that's probably how Eddie Howe feels at the minute. You keep telling me you want this club to improve, and you're not giving us any players to improve it with. But they have to accept until January, but then everyone else knows come January, we've got a checkbook, and we're going to get held back to ransom again. And this is where I think Paul Mitchell will excel, given the chance, because he knows the European scene better than anyone else we've had employed by the club, and he can unearth a few gems, and we're not going to be held with the Newcastle tax or the Saudi tax or whatever else you want. His time will be come by the end of January, and if he hasn't delivered quality for us then questions can be asked. So we have to say the jury's still out, but the most important thing for us watching that team is the team spirit needs to get back as quickly as possible. They need to have the team spirit they've got, but actually the way they gave in yesterday can't be repeated, and it shouldn't be repeated. And then if it is, that is on the manager, because he's then playing players who he knows aren't pulling their weight. And I think as a fan, I'd rather have someone like Osler coming on and run himself ragged, Murphy coming on, run himself ragged, than someone being a prima donna with the hands on the hips saying, well, it's not my fault, look at them. I did this last year. Last year means nothing now. It's what we do now and what we do going forward. And Eddie Howe is the man to fix it. I wouldn't want anyone else in that position to fix it. So hopefully he does.
Halfway through the show, time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. All excursions included, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, a 2-crew driver and courier. It's a local family company, and you can find them at www.unitedgrouptravel.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up under the video. That's the like button. It does help us grow. And click the share button. Help share to your social media. If you want to join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month, then hit the join button under this video today. We also help the food bank on this channel. Visit nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. It takes you to the matchday bucket where you can donate some money virtually. Some events for your diary in aid of Dementia Matters. The Long Sands will be reforming and be supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band at the Cluny in Newcastle on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets are £15 pre-sale from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January 2025. Tickets available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. And an evening with the Entertainers takes place on the 24th of January 2025. Telephone the box office 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge at Gateshead Leisure Centre is now open. 7 talk-ins for £99. Joe Allen will be hosting talk-ins with Lee Clark, John Anderson, Steve Howie, Darren Peacock, Supermac, Steve Watson, John Beresford, all between the dates of January and July. £99 for 7 talk-ins, newcastlelegends.com. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our NUFC Matters fanzine, £20 for 4 issues with all proceeds going to Dementia Matters. If you live overseas, it is £50 for 4 issues. To order now, go to newcastlelegends.com.
16 fanzines left. That's all we've got. So if you haven't already ordered, do not miss out on what is going to be a collector's issue, a collector's item. And of course, all money going to Dementia Matters. Once I've got the postage sorted next week, we should know what the total is going to be. So I'll be able to announce that. But £20 for 4 issues. newcastlelegends.com is where you can order the fanzine. And you can pre-order the book that everybody will be talking about at Christmas, The Entertainers, 92 to 97 Keegan's Legacy by Will Scott, is out on the 30th of November. A great book that's going to be $13.99 now from newcastlelegends.com. And big thank you to everybody out there, as always, for your support. Last month's figures: 56 new subscribers, 2.7 million minutes watched, and 131,000 total views. Thanks as always for your support. It never ever taken for granted on here. We do 7 shows a week, as you know. If you're watching on Twitter, and now's the time to jump over onto YouTube and hit the subscribe button. Just search NUFC Matters. You won't be disappointed. Okay, we have got lots of questions coming in. I just want to chuck this into the mix. I was reading this about the left wing argument with regards to Barnes and Gordon, and the stats which were put up in this particular article. Barnes, 215 of his professional appearances have seen him occupy the left-hand side. 99 goals from the left. On just 14 times he's played on the right flank, with 3 goal contributions from the right wing. So logically, Gordon would make the switch given the stats. There's Gordon's stats, of course, above 101 games as the left winger, contributing with 39 goal involvements, 47 appearances on the right with 13 goal involvements, 19 matches as an attacking midfielder with 13 goal contributions, and 13 fixtures as a centre forward with 4 goal contributions. So it probably shows Barnes is probably more used to playing on that side, Stu.
Yeah, he is. And again, this could be when people's talking about Anthony Gordon. Maybe he's, and again, it's just presumptions. He's looking, okay, I'm told I'm playing on the right. Remember when he first come, he would have played anywhere. So maybe with the huge success he had last season, he thinks, and he's entitled to think, that position's mine. And deservedly so. But he played a lot on the right for Everton. He played down the middle for Everton. He played down the middle for England under 21s. But he has bigger aspirations, and that is to nail down a regular start for England. And that for him is more important than it is for Newcastle. So yeah, I can see him taking it and say, right, I'll do that, but I'd rather be playing there. And that can cause discord behind the scenes as well, because he wants to be internationally recognised. And if he's going to be a regular start on the right-hand side, then this is a conundrum Eddie Howe needs to have fixed. Barnes, when he came on at Forest, played on the right-hand side, he looked all right. And he looked canny, but it's possible they can swap over. But I'd rather have that than having one playing, and then what happens if they get injured? And this is what we need to. We need to manage the squad. We need to manage the minutes. But also, Barnes' stats are better. But for me, I'd rather have Gordon playing on the left. I think he offers the team more. And I think for most of the first half, Barnes was anonymous. But he showed after 20 seconds in the second half why he's picked. But for me, when I mentioned at the top of the show, Steve, there's a lot of people gave auditions to why they're impact players. I meant people like Barnes, I meant people like Trippier, and I meant people like Willock, because we were all guilty of having short memories. But if we all picked our best 11 at the start of the season, I don't think Willock or Barnes would have been in it. That's just my opinion. But because we didn't sign the right winger, it's now trying to appease. Yes, these two are better than the Murphy and Miggy's on a consistent basis. But if they both want to play in the same position, then it needs to be resolved one way or the other, and quickly.
Yeah, what's your views on the left wing argument there with those stats put in front of you, Mitch?
I think we overuse stats in football, but I still think football's a very difficult game to play with stats. I was looking at some of the XG lot talking about the odds of scoring from 20 yards, and I don't think Barnes would have, if he were to play football by stats, Barnes wouldn't have scored the goal he did last week, because he wouldn't have taken the shot, because his manager would kill him. Because I think your XG from 20 yards is something like 0.1 or something like that. It's football doesn't get played on stats, and it doesn't get played on paper, and it's a very difficult game to predict by stats. That said, it looks to the eye that Barnes is always more effective on the left-hand side, but he's also more effective coming off the bench than when he starts.
Yeah.
So should we start him on the bench every game by that logic, And if Gordon does have a problem with being asked to play in a different position, I would suggest respectfully he needs to pull his head out of his arse and be grateful that he's got a spot in the team. Because it is time to get ruthless. It is time to start saying, well, if you're not doing it, have a take a seat on the bench for a little bit. I think, has he got one eye on, has he been told by Carsley that if he nails down the left-hand side, that he's going to be considered more for an England role on that position? Because effectively, if he swaps to the right, he's going up against Saka, who's not going to get dropped from the England team from that right-hand side, is he? But then, he's got a manager at England at the minute who played him as a centre-forward and for the under-21s, and he did really well there. And is that where Eddie sees Gordon's future as a central striker, and why he's persisted in not adding another central striker until this season when it was only a Sula? Because Gordon seems to have been, House seemed to have stood by this. I've got enough cover up front with Isaac, Wilson, and Gordon can operate in that area. So does that where everybody sees Gordon's future as playing more centrally? It's a very, very interesting set of problems per se, but for now I see Barnes as being more effective on the left, and my eyes tell me, not stats, that that's his position, and he does well when he's there. But it comes back to, do you know your best 11, and can we get the best out of that best 11? And the answer is no so far.
Thing is, Mitch, right? We've watched for many seasons where there was no hope, and performances like yesterday were par for the course away from home. The frustration is we know the team's better. We know the players are better than what they've produced so far. And I think that's what's causing the angst and the arguments amongst the fan base. Because ultimately we all want the same as successful Newcastle United. Some are over the top with the reactions. But at the same time, I think every player, at least Bruno, and you were right to say, had that been Longstaff yesterday, what Bruno did, he would have been vilified to the point where he'd probably not play again this season. His confidence would have been shot to bits. And everyone's now, oh, Bruno, you put your hands up, you said it was your fault. Of course it was his fault. What was he thinking of doing that in the first place? The first rule of defend, if in doubt, get it out. And it was trying to be too clever. But we're all guilty of making mistakes. It's how we respond to them. And now we've got a perfect opportunity coming into this game on Tuesday night to lay a few ghosts to bed, use that slagging that you have referred to often enough, and give someone a good tonking, give people the rest that need rest, give people the minutes that need minutes, and make sure every single player in that room, that dressing room, knows they're not undroppable. And then the hunger comes back, because ultimately, whether we like it or not, footballers nowadays, they are very fickle, they are very egotistical, and they are very self-centric about their images, but they all want to play football, and they all want to start. They all want to start the game every week. So if you say, "I'm sorry, you haven't done enough to start the game next week," when you come on, you get your chance. You impress me again in training, you get your chance, and that's been Eddie Howe's mantra since he's took over. But now there seems to be certain people, without mentioning names, but they're both Brazilian, that there's been one good performance from two of them, including Forrest, in 6 games. So that's 12. Only Joe Linton in the first game played well. I don't think Bruno has reached the heights, but that's because we know what he's capable of. And I don't buy this captaincy bids weighing him down at all. I just think he's willing. He wears his heart on his sleeve, but I don't think his body's delivering the checks that his mind's trying to write at the minute.
Why? That's the $1 million question.
I think he's fatigued. I think he's never had a proper rest, and then he's come back. They just get it in the stride. He goes off to Brazil, comes back again, and does that not mean he's not good enough? I'm watching Man City, Arsenal here. Man City and Arsenal players. There's players there who've played probably exactly the same amount of games as Bruno. These lads don't look fatigued. They're putting 100% effort in both teams, giving it a go to try and win the game. If you look at the players in the Man City team, the players in the Arsenal team, we as a collective don't hold a candle to them, and everyone knows that those two teams are clear of the rest. And Bruno, he's emotionally attached to the area. He's very proud of the fact that he's got the captaincy, and maybe he's putting too much pressure on himself. And sometimes he can be guilty of trying too hard, and just play a natural game. But again, I'll repeat what I said earlier. It's inexcusable when you've got players who can't pass the ball 10 yards or they give it to someone else in trouble because they're scared of making a mistake. That's the togetherness that wasn't there yesterday, and that's been apparent for a few, not all games, but for spells in games this season, where the one thing that kept us up and got us on the run. And the one thing that got us to the Champions League was it was all for one and one for all. And now it seems to be people have peaked. We've got people who will never, ever in that squad, will never, ever play as well as they did in that season. That was their optimum level. They were never going to be able to repeat that. And we didn't have either the funds or the allowance with PSR or the balls to make the changes at the right time and say, right, thank you very much. And I will use Miggy as an example. We could have sold him for 30 million after that season. But then you got to think, well, he's done that. Could he do it again? He'll never have a season like that again. And there's other players in there, some of them local lads, that was the best they'll ever get. And they've lived the dream. But this is our dream. What they're doing now is affecting our dream. We've supported Newcastle United all our lives. And yes, we want a team prize. But let's put our hands on the heart. I'd rather them play like they did yesterday and win 3-2 and go on to win a trophy than play like they did under Keegan. And I love football. We deserve an end product, and everything is in place for it to happen. But for a machine to work, all parts have to pull at the same time. You know, I've seen an analogy before there about a car. If something wasn't working, it has a knock-on effect to the rest of the engine. You know, the components are there for us to be successful. But this game yesterday could be a watershed. It could be us now just dropping off the edge of a cliff and just accepting the inevitable this season that we're not going to get the Europe, players are going to leave. Or it could be the catalyst that says, right, you know what it is? We've managed to get away with it now. This is on us. And together we will pull through. And I really hope it's the latter, because we have a squad, a talented squad there. But if you see performances like that and you're Tenali and you're sitting there thinking, well, hold on, I've played decent every time I've come on that pitch and I'm still not getting picked. Do you not think he'd be speaking to his agent, get me out of here? You know, of course he's going to be, because he sees people not putting the effort in. And
I didn't realise Tenali was Welsh.
No, he is. I was Northern Irish actually, but never mind. And, you've got to have people playing who are at the best of their abilities, and that way the team will fire quickly the way we want it to. Because if you're not, you can't just keep making the same mistakes and excusing people. If they're tired, rest them. If they're not capable of passing the ball to one of their own teammates, take them out, get them training. And we have the backroom staff to do it. And for me, it comes down to two things. And it's attitude, and then the willingness to, which is also the same thing, I suppose, the willingness to deliver it. When things aren't going your way, you either, it's fight or flight, isn't it? You run or you hide, or you stand up and fight. And not many stood up and fought yesterday, and that was the most disappointing thing. Not the result. It was the, like, they didn't seem to care enough, and that hurt yesterday. That hurt more than a lot of defeats we've had over the last few years. It was an acceptance of, oh well, okay, and it's not okay. It's not okay. You've got people getting up at 4 a.m, driving down there to go on a boat, to be part of this love of supporting Newcastle United and having that served up to them. And it's okay, you're getting you get the club saying, thanks for your wonderful support again. Well, thanks for playing shite. And it's not often I'll swear, Steve, but you can play bad and put the effort in. And yesterday, that was missing. And that should not happen again for the rest of the season. They should never just drop down tools like they did yesterday. And hopefully it gets fixed on Tuesday night.
Yep, Trevor Arkle, just on the Amanda story, said for Amanda to return, high management will require to leave. Amanda's moved on to other projects and won't be back, I'm afraid. All about opinions, and that was just an opinion by Stu. So that's Trevor's response to that.
No, you could be right, Steve. But the thing is, she would come back as on the payroll. If she was to come back, she'll be...
yeah, it's different.
She'll be hired. She had to leave for financial reasons, and that's why her shares were sold. And it was maybe at that time it was the right thing to cause to split. But normally you say it's not good to go back, but in this instance it might be the right thing for it to happen. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it plays out, but something has to be fixed if we want to refer to it as Trevor has there as higher management, something has to be fixed, and there has to be accountability and leadership. And not always in life will your boss tell you everything you want to hear. Sometimes you're going to hear things you don't want to hear, but your job is to deliver your performance to the best of your ability. And for me, there's too many egos there, and there's only one person, as far as I'm concerned, that's not a footballer, that's employed by the club, that has enough credit in the bank, and that's the manager. He's proven his capabilities. The others aren't. Those haven't as yet. So we'll see how it plays out.
Mitch, question from Tom. Looking ahead to the cup game coming up on Tuesday night against Wimbledon. I mean, has that result changed things, or do you think how will play strongest side in the cup, or give players who haven't had an opportunity a chance?
I think he'd rotate. I think he'd rotate simply to say, you go out there and show me what you can do, but I'll consider putting you in against Man City. Needs to shake the tree. And if somebody comes in against Wimbledon, has a belter, and says, right, okay, then drop us for Man City, day, and I think that's what you do.
Okay, Stu, do you think there'll be big changes on Tuesday, or do you think he'll play his strongest team to get through the next round?
If he plays his strongest team, there's something wrong, because Newcastle's second string should be more than good enough to beat these. This is the ideal time to give people minutes, and as Mitch just said there, let them show, look, I might not be as good as what these people are occupying the places, but I can deliver. And that's what we need now, is people delivering on the pitch. Talk is cheap and action speaks louder than words, and all the things we can come out with. But for me, it's an ideal opportunity to rest people if they're needing rests, and put people in who are keen and hungry and don't get many minutes and probably won't think they'll get minutes. Look what happened last season when we went to Man United. We played the second string there, and they wiped the floor with them. So we shouldn't be worried about going to Wimbledon on a Tuesday night with, if we're having to play Kraft and Byrne at the back, and you've got Livramento and Hall as your back four. I don't see that should be a problem. And then you could then start playing your Tonali's and Longstaffs and plus one other. I genuinely believe Bruno would benefit from a rest. And then for me, he's actually needs to be rested Tuesday. Give the young lad a run out, because we'll have more than enough. And if Anthony Gordon is paying for his left wing role, rest Harvey Barnes, because at the minute Harvey Barnes is going to be more valuable against Manchester City than Anthony Gordon is. But this could be the confidence booster, the tonic that he needs. Get him playing the team. Then you could even give Miggy or Murphy a run out. There'll be minutes there. There'll be players there that they won't just get us over the line. We should have that team beaten with the greatest respect. When people say that, they probably have no respect. But we should have a team like Wimbledon beaten by half time. And I'd be surprised if we don't. And it could just be the confidence booster we need going into Manchester City. And if someone like, I don't know, let's say Murphy come on and he scores a couple of goals, then you'll have Gordon and not so much Barnes at the minute, because he is producing, thinking, do you know what, my place isn't guaranteed. And that'll affect their ego more. That'll get their sleeves rolled up, and that'll get them refocused, because that's what's missing. They're just not focused on the job in hand, and they're on cruise control. And sorry, this is elite professional football. You can't be on cruise control. You have to be giving it and be at it all the time. And some of them haven't been, and it's been clear to see.
Okay, Blue Rhythm Boy says, do you lads agree that left back's a problem position? Mitch, he says, we've not gone out and bought a tried and tested one, favouring utility players like Byrne and now Lloyd Kelly. And Hall doesn't look like the guy either, he says. So, people saying that right midfield is a position that we're struggling with. We've already said, I agree with you, that, formation in the middle, not picking the right combinations being a bit of an issue, certainly for the supply line to Isaac. But the left back spot is certainly, I felt a bit more uncertain as opposed to the centre half position this season.
And he's forgot to mention Matt Targett, who's still in the squad, by the way. and who's had 2 terrible injuries, and who everybody seemed to be reasonably happy with him at left full back, where he was fit and playing. Didn't seem to be subject to many criticisms when we had him and Trippier playing as a full back pair, and everybody seemed quite happy. Is it a problem position? I think you've got to remember Hall's age.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not convinced Eddie necessarily sees him as a left back going forward. I think you'll see him eventually migrate into midfield. But I wouldn't say I don't have a problem with Byrne or Kelly or Hall playing at left full back. I think it's the least of our worries.
Stu?
Again, I like what Mitch said there. Hall, for me, it's clear he's the future. He's only 19. The game that you went to, Steve, the one last week when you said he was man of the match at Wolves, do you know what? I felt he played where he felt inhibited or restricted. You know, he played without the freedom that we know he can play. He's excellent on the ball. He's excellent running with the ball, and he's composed with it. But he seems to be playing, and then, oh no, I've been told I've got to do this, and you can see him stopping and thinking, and then just playing a pass that he might not naturally play. And he's getting moulded. It's took a while for him to get to where he was. He finished the season well, and he'll probably continue to finish this season well. But at the moment, the way things have panned out, maybe it could be quite simple as say, right, we'll play Kelly away from home and we'll play Hall at home. And tell them that's how we're going to do it until 1 year's excel to the point where you become undroppable. But Hall's got a big future with us. And I don't think Kelly's done much wrong in any game he's played for us. And it's just go back to what I said last week. Had we signed him for £30 million, people would be saying he's great. We got him on a free and he's from Bournemouth. He's not fashionable. So they're looking to criticise, and it's very easy to criticise people, but sometimes they're not doing anything wrong to be criticised. So is Matt Targett the answer? Probably not. But is he an out-and-out left-back? Yeah, he is. But is he fit enough? You know, Mitch just mentioned that he's had 2 really, really bad injuries. You know, is he going to be able to come back and be the Matt Targett that's helped us stay up and then advance up that league and then start the following season? We don't know. And they know behind the scenes what's happening. So there isn't an outstanding candidate. So the position's up for grabs, and then it's down to those 2, possibly 3 players that said, you know what, I really want to make this position mine. And then it's up to them to perform.
Okay, got another question from Tyson, Stu. This one was for you. He says, Stu, you said before that Eddie's formation is dependent on players. If he doesn't have the players or fitness, etc., why do you think he struggles to change the system?
Great question. I think I can't answer him more anyhow. But for him, that formation with Newcastle United is tried and tested. And we've all just said earlier that what he sees behind the scenes is different to what we see on a Saturday. And although he is accountable, because when they do well and they're getting the win, he takes the plaudits. So unfortunately, if he's not making the changes, he has to take the criticism as well. But we can all be managers. Eddie Howe's paid a bucket load of money to be the manager for Newcastle United, and he gets a lot more decisions right than he gets wrong. But it didn't work yesterday. It didn't work for certain sections of other games this season, and maybe that isn't in his armory to make the changes. You know, maybe he doesn't have enough confidence in the people on the bench to say, right, I'm changing this now to 4-2-3-1. I'm changing this now to 4-4-2. I'm changing this to whichever 3-5-2, whatever you want to do it. You know, certain players are comfortable playing in certain positions, and if they're underperforming, he needs to say, right, you're off. And he did it at Wolves, Steve, you were there. Sorry, the midfield's not working. I'm changing 2 of you. And it made a massive impact. And yesterday, he made the change at half time, and we got an instant reaction. And again, sorry for hopping on. Had Shaw passed, or had he actually scored, he hit the side net. or what he should have done is stop the game, took the ball back 10 yards, and then took a shot because he probably would have hit the target then. But no, it's all ifs, buts, and maybes. And can he change the game? Can he change his formation? I think he can, but I think he wants to be able to play the way he does, and what he could be guilty of is giving the players too much trust and saying, I think that you can't be as bad as this, you will get better. But the changes are there, and I'll go back to the very first thing I said on the show today. For me, now going forward, the midfield is Tonali plus 2 others, and it's up to the others in that midfield engine room to say, I'm worthy of a start, and I'm going to prove I'm worthy of a start, because none of them have.
Yep, I would agree. We need to play Tonali. I will take that question, Stephen. Just briefly, thoughts on the boxing last night. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thought the undercard was brilliant. 2 fighters really on the main event who I wouldn't class as world class. And unfortunately, Anthony Joshua, I felt sorry for him last night. And I felt sorry for him at the press conference because I don't think he went into the fight mentally right. I think he's got a lot of issues, a lot of problems behind the scenes. It's just my opinion. But when you at your press conference where you should be focused on your game plan and what you're going to do, you ask the fans to all pray for you. I found that really strange. In fact, I found his whole behaviour really strange, and I just wonder if there's something going on behind the scenes. But what I watched of AJ last night, Stephen, wasn't the fighter who, was knocking out everybody. Hand-picked fighters, it has to be said by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom in those early days. He's lost all kind of knowledge of how to box. And I think he needs to hang his gloves up. Dubois is not a world-class fighter. But he's hit lucky, and fair play to the kid. He took the opportunity. He got himself into shape, and he boxed the lugs off AJ last night. But we're entering another one of those weird times in heavyweight boxing where there's not going to be a big name, because Tyson Fury is on his way out as well, I feel as well. There isn't anybody in the wings at the minute. When a cruiserweight is your best heavyweight, it tells you where we're at with boxing at the moment. It's not great. And I'll tell you something else. I may have supported the Saudi takeover of Newcastle United, but I certainly don't support the Saudi national anthem being sung at Wembley prior to the boxing before our national anthem. I thought that was wrong. So whoever gave that decision, I know they're the ones putting the money in. I know they're the ones putting that up.
Saudi National Day tomorrow, Steve. So it might have been.
I didn't agree. I don't agree with that, Stu. This is our country, and it's Wembley, and our national anthem should have been sung before the Saudi national anthem. I can understand why the Saudi national anthem was played, but that was ridiculous, and it was booed, and rightly so, by a lot of people in the stadium, because there's 96,000 people there, and they all wanted to hear our national anthem first. So yeah, listen, we'll not get sucked into that. That's me comments on the boxing, but I did want to say that. Okay, Terry Mitch asked us this. Good evening, lads. I've been looking at the next 5 league games. The way we've been playing, how many points do you think we'll get? I'm thinking at best 4 points. Now, if we'd asked this last week, we might have said something completely different.
If things stay as they are, we'll not get 10. That's for sure.
All right.
If we do get 10, I think we'll do very well. But I might also show me arse and Phoenix window.
Man City at home. You've got Everton away, Brighton at home, Chelsea away, and Arsenal at home. So what do you reckon out of that lot, Mitch?
5.
Yes, that's what I've gone for. 5. 5 points out of that, and I'll be happy with that on current form. Stu, what do you reckon?
See, the 5 that you said, so that'll be 1 win and 2 draws, yeah?
Yep.
Right.
So where's the win coming from out of those 5? You both said 5.
Everton.
Right. So would it not be better for us? Well, of course, it would be better for us. We win at Everton and we beat Brighton at home. So we've got 6 points. We can afford to lose 3 games instead of drawing 2. You know what I mean? Instead of drawing 2, then we can actually afford to lose 3. But I honestly think that Chelsea hit and miss, and I think we can beat Chelsea. We should be beating Everton, and I think we'll beat Brighton. Arsenal will do well. Arsenal and Man City will do well. And I think anyone with any realms of sensibility would accept a point of either of those two on current. So I will say we'll get 9 points from those 5 games.
Okay, interesting. Lots of people saying different things, but yeah, it's all about opinions. Tom wants to know where the Christmas tree is. It is up. We did see it last week, but I'm sure Stu doesn't mind showing it. There it is. Christmas is on its way because the tree is up. By the way,
we've got a Santa that climbs up it and everything, and a lot. Fantastic, to be honest.
Fantastic. Barry, we did answer this before, but I will ask you a question anyway. We'll just reiterate what we said before. Stu, Mitch, do you think we need to drop the players who aren't performing to do that? Against most of Eddie's blue chip players. What do you reckon about that, Stu? Can you hear us, Mitch?
I can hear you now, Steve.
All right, go on then, Stu.
What about the Christmas tree?
No, Barry Hogan's question on the screen.
Do we need to drop players who aren't performing? To do that, we'll go against most of the... I think I've made it clear throughout this show. There's players dropped, probably the word that we shouldn't be using, rested, rotated, taken out the foul line or whatever. It's okay, people saying, I want to play, but if you're not producing, then you have to be shown it doesn't matter who you are. And that's sometimes it's good for the team. There's an old saying that if you want to slap the daughter-in-law, you slap the daughter. I don't mean physically slap, you want to get the message across. You tell your daughter off in front of the daughter-in-law and think, oh, well, if she's going to do that to her, what's she going to do to me? And there needs to be a realignment of not just the commitment, because I genuinely believe Bruno is 100% committed to the team, but what he's producing is nowhere near his level that we know he's capable of. And every game he'll want to play, every game he'll try his best, but he's not Anthony Joshua star fading like at the moment. But if we keep running them into the ground, it's common sense that he's going to burn out. So for me, rest him tomorrow. Tuesday. I keep saying tomorrow. Rest him Tuesday, and tell him he sees it. We see it. Other players have mentioned. Other clubs have been linked with him. He is a blue chip player for us. He's now going to have to start performing against Man City and teams like that. Rather than let the game pass you by, rather than letting people run past you, be more positionally aware. And you're the main man. You're the captain. You're the conductor of that choir. And you now have to start grabbing that game by the scruff of the neck, which we know you can, and go and taking it. And if you're not producing, I'm sorry, you're going to get taken out. You're going to get taken out, and other people are going to get the opportunity until you're in the place where you can produce what we can. And it has to be done for the greater good of the team. No one should be undroppable.
So just reiterating that, I guess, Mitch, from our perspective, I agree. And I mean, that's what you want. Really, you want to be in a position where you've got 11 players on the bench who can replace the 11 players on the pitch. And if somebody's not performing, you want to be able to replace them.
In modern football, nobody should be undroppable. There should be pressure on everybody. The ideal situation you want is to have everybody putting pressure on a first team place. Healthy competition within, and that's the culture you should be generating for success. Nobody should have a comfort zone that they can just slip into, because you can guarantee when you give people the opportunity to do that, they will on occasion slide into that. Whether it's very deliberate or not, it happens. It happens mentally. They're only human, and so everybody should be on their toes. Everybody should be not expecting to see their name on the team sheet. And that's the way you get the best out of the players. And you shouldn't be frightened of any one player. No one player is ever bigger than Newcastle United. Don't care who that player is. And that's the mentality that should be there in the dressing room.
Great show tonight. As always, thanks to everybody for watching. 700 of you watching live, and that's 300 of you watching on Twitter. So if you want to jump over onto YouTube and search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button, that would be great. Thanks to Mitch. Thanks to Stu. Back tomorrow, 6 o'clock, with the Fans Forum. And the Arsenal Man City game is still 2-1 if you're not watching. 5 minutes injury time left. Take care, lads. See you later.
5-0 to Newcastle Tuesday.
5-0. Oh, yeah, 5-0. Yeah, give us a prediction, Mitch, for Tuesday.
5-0 to Newcastle.
3-0.
3-0. Okay, cheers, lads. Take care. See you soon.
Cheers,
everyone. Thanks a lot.